They rolled a tow truck into my driveway at sunrise and called it community standards. I was still in my robe coffee, steaming in my hand, watching a stranger hook chains under a dust-gray cover like he was wrangling trash. And the HOA president, perfect ponytail clipboard, that thin smile people wear when they think rules make them royalty, stood there as if she was doing the neighborhood a favor. I should back up. My name's Eli Turner. 47, starting over after a divorce that came apart like a slow-motion car wreck. Lawyers' spreadsheets, who gets the dog, all of it. I bought a townhome in Ridgeview Preserve because it looked like certainty. The same brick arches, the same trimmed hedges, the same polite wave everyone gives on trash day. 3-car garage sealed the deal. I told myself I needed the space for tools. Truth was, I needed the space for a secret. My Uncle Dean left me his life's favorite mistake, a 1966 Ferrari 275 GTB4 that looked tired but breathed like a cathedral under the hood. Numbers matching papers in a leather folder that smelled like pipe smoke and old money, the kind of machine people whisper about even when the engine's off. Until I could decide on a restoration shop, I kept it covered to protect it from dust and the kind of curiosity that grows on cul-de-sacs. 2 days after I moved in, she came knocking, Valerie Knox, HOA president, 3 terms running, married to a guy who sells surgical equipment and calls everyone boss. She had that sing-song voice folks use with toddlers and trespassers. Welcome to Ridgeview, Mr. Turner. A quick thing, the vehicle in your drive. We don't allow long-term covered items. It, affects the feel. She handed me a violation printed on thin paper that scratched like it resented being held. That night, I read every line of those covenants. Turns out covered vehicles are permitted up to 30 days without board approval if registered and operable. Mine was both. I emailed the board, politely attached the page highlighted like a diligent student. Valerie replied at 11:42 p.m. with 3 sentences that could have been cut from a cold piece of chicken. Will review. Please remove, as a courtesy. Community consistency matters. By the weekend, the gossip machine was humming. Conversations ended when I walked up. A neighbor dropped a bag of dog waste on my lawn like an offering. Someone slid an anonymous note into my mailbox. Trash cars, trash people. It was petty and small and meant to push, and I could feel a part of me, the resentful part that had aged 10 years in a courthouse hallway, wanting to shove back right away. I didn't. I put in cameras. I logged everything. And when I couldn't sleep, I opened Uncle Dean's box. That's where I found a folder stamped Ridgeview Development, 1989. I figured it was old brochures. It wasn't. It was corporate filings for Harborcrest Holdings, a bland name wrapped around a startling truth. My uncle had bought farmland, partnered with a builder, and held on to the land through ground leases, 61% of the dirt under Ridgeview Preserve, the streets, the park, the parcel beneath Valerie's perfect porch. The houses were fee simple. The land was not. Every HOA payment carried a separate line, the ground rent pooled and transferred to a bank account I'd never touched. I sat there at my kitchen island with the folder open and the refrigerator humming like an old friend, and I could hear Dean's voice, that dry laugh he used when someone underestimated him. People see what they want to see, kid. Make them look twice. Valerie didn't look twice. She doubled down. She called an emergency standards session in her living room granite island, like a judge's bench board, members in matching smiles, a single chair facing them, under a light that felt like a heat lamp. She slid a manila folder across the counter with printed ring screenshots of my driveway, a market study clearly born 5 minutes earlier from a search bar, and a speech about property values spoken like an oath. We've had multiple complaints, she said, savoring each syllable like salt. We have to protect the look and feel that people paid for. I flipped her covenants around so everyone could read the highlighted paragraph. Show me where I'm in violation. There was a long, awkward symphony of throat clearing. One board member, a woman named Audrey, who smelled like hand lotion and regret, whispered that maybe legal should review. Valerie said fine tabled through teeth so tight they squeaked. A day later, her brother-in-law appeared by my mailbox with a briefcase that had seen better days and a suit that had never met a tailor. "I'm counsel," he announced, handing me a demand to uncover the car within 72 hours due to community safety concerns. I asked for the board resolution authorizing him. He stalled, looked at Valerie for help. She looked at the hedge. That night, I pulled his bar listing DUIs, quick closings, lots of one-star reviews about missed calls. I called the HOA's actual law firm, listed in my closing packet. The associate on the line said, "Sir, we did not authorize any interaction with you." I slept better than I had in months. Then came the show of force. Valerie packed a meeting at the community center with proxy votes that smelled like favoritism and faces no one had seen at the 4th of July picnic. She clicked a laser pointer at slides showing necessary amendments to ban covered vehicles entirely and fine disruptive elements. It passed by a margin that felt prearranged. The next morning I got a notice, $150 administrative fee, $50 per day, starting in 48 hours, and a line in bold, towing authorized. I didn't send the folder to the State Oversight Board. Not yet. I took a breath. I called 3 people. First, Helena Ruiz, the attorney who'd quietly looked after Harbor Crest for years. Her voice had the kind of calm you can lean on. Second, Noah Briggs. My neighbor 3 doors down, retired homicide, who laughed when I asked if he'd been filming. "You think I stopped the day I retired," he said, and held up a notebook with dates and times like a ledger of petty cruelty. Third, Priya Patel, a forensic accountant I met in the rubble of my tech job. She arrived with a laptop and the cheerful energy of a surgeon. "Let's see where the money bleeds," she said. And by Sunday she'd found it fake: consulting fees, padded landscaping contracts, a ribbon of kickbacks that added up to $90-something thousand, and a shiny motive. The tow truck came at 5:52 a.m. on a Tuesday, while the neighborhood still smelled like cut grass and cold air. The driver, thick forearms, calm eyes, walked toward the cover with all the caution a man shows when he senses he's about to become a YouTube lesson. Valerie was in athleisure and triumph. Her husband filmed from their SUV like he was producing a documentary on justice. Garages were opening. Phones were out. I stepped onto the driveway, lifted my mug, and said, "Morning, folks. Beautiful day for a felony." "Sir, I have authorization," the driver said. "You have a piece of paper," I answered, and I slid a hand under the hem of that gray cover and pulled it in one clean sweep. The car caught the low sun and turned it into a confession. That long red nose, the chrome wire wheels, the prancing horse on a badge that has silenced more rooms than any gavel. For a second, nobody spoke. You could hear the tow truck idle and a kid in pajamas whisper, "Whoa." "I'm not touching that," the driver said, palms up, backing away like it could bite. "Lady, you didn't tell me it was a 4-cam Ferrari worth a fortune." Valerie recovered fast. "Value doesn't change the rules," she snapped. But the crowd had pivoted. Curiosity, pushing out contempt. Neighbors squinting at reflections in red paint. Somebody asking if those were original knockoffs. I took out a folder. Tom Redding appraiser. $2 to plus $2.3 million, depending on the room, and the room was in my driveway, filling with the kind of oxygen that fuels gossip and apologies. Before anyone tries to find me another dollar, I said steady, because it mattered. You should know who you've been threatening. I held up a second set of papers. Harbor Crest filings, certified copies, signatures that once held a pen above, deals larger than anyone here had ever imagined. Ground leases. 61% of the land under Ridgeview is owned by a company my uncle founded and I inherited. Your HOA payments include ground rent to Harbor Crest. Translation: I'm your landlord's landlord. It landed like a slow rolling wave. You could see understanding move through faces. First disbelief, then math, then the kind of silence people keep for churches and courtrooms. Valerie said, "You're lying the way people do when the truth threatens to rearrange the furniture." I called Helena on speaker. She introduced herself, listed the filings by number, invited anyone to check with the county. Someone did right there on the curb. Heads went down, heads came up. The tow truck left without my car. That evening, Valerie tried one last swing an integrity meeting with slides accusing me of fraud. She was pale under the fluorescence, but her voice still had that edge it gets when a person thinks volume outruns facts. I waited. Then I changed the slide deck. Priya's spreadsheets took the screen vendor names, amounts, dates, a neat red column that read unauthorized. Noah distributed copies of his notes. Helena set certified documents on a folding table that wobbled like it didn't want to hold that much weight. Audrey, the board member with hand lotion and regret, stood and said, "Motion to remove the president." It passed by a margin so clean it squeaked. People think revenge tastes sweet. For me, it tasted like relief and black coffee. In the weeks after Ridgeview grew a backbone, we elected a new board, the quiet kindergarten teacher down the street as president, Noah, as security liaison, Priya on finance. We opened the books, wrote rules like they were promises instead of weapons, started an annual audit because trust is something you build on purpose. And I took those ground rent funds Uncle Dean had let stack up like a test I didn't know I was taking, and created a scholarship in his name, first checks to kids studying engineering and business at the community college, because building and balancing are both arts worth paying for. The Ferrari became a neighborhood ritual. On Saturdays, I pull it onto the cul-de-sac and let kids sit in the driver's seat while their parents tell me about the worst rule they ever had to follow. The car isn't a weapon anymore. It's a hinge a way a closed place can open. Sometimes I think Dean knew it would go this way, that he set the board and left me to learn the patience it takes to win without swinging first. Valerie put her house on the market. The sign says motivated seller, which is a polite way of saying a chapter ended before she was ready. Her husband walks their dog at odd hours, and we nod like men who learned something the hard way. Do I feel sorry for her? Some days. Mostly I feel glad the neighborhood chose transparency over theater. If you ask what changed me, it wasn't the money or the documents or the moment a crowd gasped at a red car unmasked. It was the quiet after. Mending fences the way a neighbor's kid beams when you hand him a tiny wrench to tap a spinner cap. Here you go, buddy, gentle. The way a meeting room smells like coffee and paper and possibility when people show up to build instead of bully. The realization that power isn't what you can force, it's what you can prove patiently with facts and time. So now it's your turn. What would you have done in my shoes? Swing early or wait and set the table? Have you ever watched a small group twist rules for control and seen a community pull them back straight? Tell me where you're watching from and drop your own neighborhood battle below. Who was right? Who was wrong? What justice looked like when the dust settled? And if this gave you a little courage to check your covenants, follow the money, and keep a cool head, share it with someone who needs that reminder today.